X-Rated.
I'm Matt Fisher.
I'm Ryan Whedon.
And this is a podcast by a couple of guys who dated for a blink of an eye over a decade ago now.
And then podcasted for a lifetime.
Yeah.
What is this, 30?
37.
Man, that's my age. Oh!
Well,
That I will be someday. Probably.
all your hard living, you might not make it that far.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lifestyle I chose.
Live fast, die young.
Yeah.
Leave a beautiful corpse.
For everyone to admire and take selfies with.
In your grave is just going to be a selfie stick. So people just have to crawl into the coffin.
Mm-hmm. I'll like make them force my rigor mortis hand into a thumbs up.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. You'd be surprised how much you have to save for a coffin with a window and the ability to crawl into it.
And so you won't be buried. You'll...
Yeah, it's like Lenin.
Just a glass tomb.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you can
Airtight.
And take your picture with me.
Wow, you really think highly of yourself.
I mean, this is what the fans demand. I didn't really have a choice in the matter.
I'm going the Walt Disney route and having my head cryogenically frozen until such time that full-body head transplants are a viable option for me.
Wow.
So,
if it's possible to have your head grafted to some sort of mechanical / robotical thing, would you rather have that or to a human who lost their head?
Could the robot have sex? Are we talking like data?
Like a fully functional?
Yeah.
Sure, or if it's not available at the time of the ability to put the head on, it's an add-on that could be put on. But I'm not sure if insurance would cover it.
And then the human option, are we talking like spokesmodel category, or is it just like lottery, like pulling a name out of a hat and just seeing where things fall?
Seems like it would just be whatever's available.
I don't like those odds. What I'm worried about is the rising levels of obesity in this country.
So what you're saying is you don't want to opt for the human version until America loses some weight.
If I could like window shop the bodies first.
Okay.
Pick one out of a catalog.
Mm-hmm.
I could do that. I'd be fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I think I'd go for a fully functional robot.
Yeah. I just like the idea of a robot body.
What's my energy source? Would I have to like plug in at night? I already have trouble with my phone on that.
Like the electric grandmother?
I don't know what that is.
You've never seen the electric grandmother?
Is this something to be seen?
It was a movie. I want to say it's Canadian, maybe made for TV. This family's mom dies, and then they send away for grandma, and she shows up via helicopter in a sarcophagus, and she just comes awake and she's electronic, and she squirts hot chocolate and orange juice out of her fingers. And
so this is episode 38 of X-Rated.
Preview coming attraction. Yeah, I don't know. It was a movie I saw on TV a lot as a kid.
That sounds like one of those weird television shows about a family whose dad dies, but he made a robot to fill in as a surrogate father figure, and the robot teaches the kid how to be a man, and then the kid teaches the robot how to love. Exactly. I'm not working on a pilot or anything, so don't ask.
Sounds good. I like this. Our first foray into TV.
Well, with the sort of growing cinematic nature of television, it was only natural.
That's true.
And I'm still, of course, reeling from our mini-series outing last week.
We all are. Did you watch anything fun this week besides the movie?
I saw the new Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm. With your Spider-Minx crush?
Yeah, and it only got worse after watching that.
Oh, my.
He is a charmer, and he looks like, about 10 years old in the movie.
Oh, dear.
But a fully chiseled and toned 10-year-old. It still suffers from some of the same problems that any of the MCU films have.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of found Tony Stark's presence to be just totally distracting whenever he showed up.
Oh.
But the rumors are that Iron Man's not going to survive the Infinity Wars.
Oh.
And so they're sort of grooming Spider-Man to sort of take the helm as, like, leader of the Avengers.
Okay.
But the movie I just thought it was well crafted. Like, it's pleasantly I was pleasantly surprised at the diversity of the cast. Like,
okay.
They changed a lot of the races from the original comic book. Like, Flash, who was like the bully in the comic books and the cartoons. He's played by, I can't remember the actor's name, but he was in Grand Budapest Hotel. He was the lobby boy.
Oh, okay.
Zero.
Yeah.
And he's still like a bully in this, but a different type than just like the high school quarterback jock bully.
Sure.
And just they do stuff like that. Like they very actively took a step towards having a diverse cast.
That's great.
And the way that it plays out, it's not just like they chose to be colorblind about the cast. Like they did it consciously because it kind of plays into how the story unfolds.
Oh, cool.
There's a lot to like about it.
So I have a little bit of Marvel Cinematic Universe fatigue.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is this one going to help contribute to that getting better or getting worse?
I would say that your fatigue will go away slightly after seeing this. If all the MCU movies were of this caliber, I don't think anyone would be suffering from Marvel fatigue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Did you watch anything this week?
I did. I went and saw a movie in the theater that was not super successful. I went and saw Valerian in the City of 1,000 Alien Planets. Man, I went in rooting for the movie. I was really, really rooting for it.
Because you like some of like Luc Besson's other stuff. Like you're a Fifth Element fan.
I'm a huge Fifth Element fan. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. This movie really tries to get to that, and it just doesn't. And you know what? Its biggest problem is, the script could have used a little more finesse.
Okay.
Like the plot's okay, and there's enough like imagination involved with it to keep your attention going. The dialogue is trash.
Sure.
It's so bad. And then, man, casting. That casting director should be fired.
Oh, really?
The people, the main characters are just charisma vacuums. Like
Dane DeHaan didn't bring it.
Oh, he's so dull. He's just like a low rent Keanu Reeves. Like, it's bad. It was bad. But I loved the like originality of the idea. Like the idea of this huge, space station basically is really cool, and they kind of like give you these little windows into it, which are really great. Like there's a bunch of aliens that have to live underwater, so they build like an area that's like all underwater on this thing, and then there's like these weird robot things that are kind of the brain of the whole thing, and they live in a weird robot area, and that was all cool. That was really fun, and I liked the look of it a lot too. It's like the definition of eye candy. It's really great in that department, but it was just, I mean, dialogue tropes were hard to.
It's based on a fairly old comic book, isn't it?
Yeah, it's based on a French graphic novel.
Yeah.
And apparently it's like a huge volume worth of it.
A lot of people say that Star Wars, especially New Hope, stole a lot from the original graphic novel.
Oh, okay.
Like the trash compactor scene, I guess, is like totally out of.
That's funny because it's in this movie, and I thought they were stealing from Star Wars.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, there you go.
I just didn't realize that the comic book or the graphic novel was that old either. In 1977, George Lucas could have been stealing it from someplace.
That's true. And it makes me wonder because Snowpiercer is also based off of a French graphic novel.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm wondering, like, they just must have a different sensibility of what outlandish is, you know?
Yeah, because I know that in America, like, when Watchmen was initially published, like, that was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in the late 80s or early 90s. Yeah. And, it was a big deal to have, like, a comic book of, like, this size and scope and things like that. But it kind of seemed like maybe elsewhere, or at least in France, they were already operating on this level, so...
Yeah. I will say I recommend this movie, though. It's really worth it.
Okay.
It's not good. Like, you got to go in with some low expectations, but it was fun at least. Okay. And I enjoyed sitting through it, even though the dialogue was brutal. Let's dive headfirst into the sun.
Today's movie is Danny Boyle's Sunshine.
I think I was reeling a little bit from our journey to old London town last week because I didn't realize that you were saying Danny Boyle's Sunshine, and I thought the movie was Danny Boyle Sunshine, and I was expecting this movie to be like something in the English countryside, starring, Cillian Murphy, and I was like, I've never heard of this. This sounds great. I have seen this movie. So last week I'm all, what is this? I've never even heard of it. I have seen this movie, and I was happy to watch it again, though.
Okay. Well, good.
I just want to clarify that.
Danny Boyle, he's got a handful of good films under his belt. I feel like he has a tendency to over-direct from time to time. I would say most egregiously would be in his movie The Beach, where it's like you have a fine movie that, like, in the last, 30, 40 minutes, suddenly, like, he's afraid everyone's getting bored, and he's just, like, throwing random ideas. And there's, like, a scene where Leo's running through the jungle, and they make it, like, a video game sequence.
Yeah, it's so painful. That's what I always think of, too.
I'm like, ooh. I don't know, it's so uncalled for.
It makes a little bit of sense when you think about the book, because he talks about, like, saying, oh, this is like a video game, but, like, it doesn't work in translation.
I think he's both underappreciated as a director and maybe too praised at the same time. Because he does good work, but I feel like he knows that he's a good director, and he lets it get away from him.
Yeah.
Because, 127 hours... for basically a movie about a guy pinned to a rock, it's pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
And like the Steve Jobs movie, Steve Jobs, it's just 3 scenes, and it's mostly just like 2 or 3 people in a room talking. So to like turn that into something like, interesting, like on a visual level, good on him.
Yeah.
So, Sunshine's probably my favorite of his, though.
Oh, okay.
And part of it is I feel that Sunshine does for logic and ethics what The Matrix did for intro to philosophy concepts.
Okay.
And it illustrates it in such a way. Like, it's not just explaining it to you, it's illustrating it with these, like, cool sci-fi concepts and situations.
Yeah, I can see that.
It helps drive the point home when you see these people like sacrificing themselves for the sake of the mission and things like that.
Yeah, and I would agree with you that he does a great job of illustrating that up until we get introduced to the fundamentalist religious person who kind of gets a little heavy-handed there at the end. So,
this is my 3rd viewing of this movie.
Okay.
And I'm fully prepared for how much I did not like the ending. And I really tried to look at it as, like, dogmatic fundamentalism versus logic and reason.
Sure.
And, like, this is, like, the big showdown.
Which I think is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah. But, man, does it not come across that way. And, I mean, I know we're already jumping to the end here.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, but... It's really sort of thematically unsatisfying that basically they win just by running out the clock. They don't win by having reason and logic beat out the fundamentalists. Like,
yeah.
It's just sort of like they just keep everything going long enough that it can't be stopped.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a win, but it doesn't feel like a win because we're not using the skills that the characters have like developed through the whole thing, and it's
right.
Like, they're not winning based on like their principles or their skill set. Like they just kind of won out of dumb luck and circumstances out of their control.
Yeah.
So it doesn't quite feel like a win. And, I mean, Quentin Tarantino was going to name this, like, one of his, 22 favorite films. And he had Sunshine on there, but he said that he took it off because of the ending.
Yeah, and I found myself feeling like I get the point of using that person as that illustration, and I see the, like, butting heads of the two what is it, lines of thought there. But I almost feel like you could have a much more interesting movie if it was just like eliminate that part altogether and just have their problems being like dealing with mechanical problems, or like you could have all the problems they have come up and not have it be this like boogeyman running around.
Right, because you already see them butting heads with people who are being, I don't want to say overly emotional, but are being emotional versus being logical.
Yeah.
Because there's a scene when they're voting on whether or not to kill someone in order to maintain the air supply.
Right.
And they say that the vote has to be unanimous.
Right.
And Rose Byrne holds out. And she knows that by holding out that, like, it puts the mission in jeopardy and, like, they're going to die. But she can't bring herself to vote to kill someone.
Basically lose your humanity for this, like, logical side.
No.
Cassie.
I know the argument. I know the logic. You're saying you need my vote. I'm saying you can't have it.
And so I feel like we already have that conflict presented in the movie.
Sure, yeah.
And in that scene, like, it's a great scene because, like, even though, like, we, the audience members, know that, like, what she's doing is bad, like, we don't think that she's, like, being stupid or anything like that,
Yeah.
We're not necessarily faulting her or think that she's being bad.
No, I'm not sure how I would vote in that situation.
It'd be tough.
Yeah. I mean, I wrote that down.
Who am I kidding? Kill them all.
You're like...
I'll do this mission by myself.
You're like, so guys, we're going to be voting on whether or not to kill one of our crewmates. And you're like, let's do it.
Yep.
I guess we should mention that the premise of this movie is that the sun is dying, and these guys have to go launch a nuclear bomb into the sun to
sort of reignite it.
Basically a one-way mission.
Yeah. They
kind of pretend that maybe they can get back, but it's sort of like a foregone conclusion that they're not.
Yeah. And this is one of those science fiction films that I love because, yes, I'm sure a lot of it's pseudoscience, but they really care enough about the pseudoscience to at least make it look believable.
Mm-hmm.
Like their oxygen garden.
Yeah.
Like, this big, arboretum harvesting oxygen, essentially.
And growing plants to eat.
Yeah, and I don't know, just like that
was... Well, the amount of work... I was reading the Wikipedia page, and the amount of work that went into the front end of this movie really shows. Like, Danny Boyle got all these people, consulted with all these, like, NASA experts, and, like, he put the crew through crazy...
Oh, did he?
Yeah, the cast, like, had to live together for a while.
Oh, wow.
He made them, like, watch a bunch of space movies together. He took them on those, like, anti-gravity planes so that they were, like, weightless for a while. Just all sorts of junk. And, like, one of the things that one of the NASA people that they consulted with says was the garden. Like, that wasn't planned to be part of it, but they were like, look, if you're going to be flying to the sun, that journey's going to take so long that you can't sustain this many people on rations. They're going to need this and have oxygen. Like, you're going to need this as a source of oxygen, and also they can grow their own stuff. And also, apparently, the, like, day-to-day activities of, like, preparing your own food and things like, and then washing your dishes is an important part of being in space for a long time because it helps keep your sanity.
Oh, okay.
So I imagine, like, gardening is a good way to help with that too.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, I remember back when I saw 2001 initially, there's, like, a scene where someone's jogging like, around, and I just remember, whichever family member I saw it with initially was talking about how, like, not only is exercise, like, good while you're in space because, like, no gravity can kind of, like, fuck up your blood pressure.
Right.
But sort of just that task of it kind of keeps you earthbound.
So. Yeah, which is something apparently you have to tackle with when you're up in space for long periods of time.
I can imagine that, yeah. Or just general homesickness to anything familiar.
Yeah.
So, I appreciate that they took the time to do the pseudoscience.
Me too. It really shows.
At least the broad strokes of it.
Yeah, it shows. And, like, I think it shows in the cast building, too. Like, that making them do all that stuff together. Like, I really felt like these people knew how to talk to each other and were very comfortable around each other. And I really think they got good performances kind of all around.
I will say all around with one exception. I thought Chris Evans was terrible in this. Just...
Yeah. He's not always that great.
No, I thought he was really quite bad in this. He's a regular Dane DeHaan.
But he's pretty.
He is pretty. I'll take Murphy, though, over Chris Evans any day.
Did you buy that he's, like, Earth's greatest physicist? That was a little hard for me.
I found it hard that Chris Evans was an astronaut. So, yeah.
Earth's greatest maintenance astronaut. What was his duty? I don't know.
Yeah, I could buy it. Are you just saying someone that pretty can't be that good at math?
I mean, I had trouble buying it. Let's just say that. I was picturing somebody older, maybe. I don't know.
So,
although I suppose on a journey that long, you'd have to get young people to do it. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
So they have a nuclear bomb that's the size of Manhattan, and the idea is to push it into the sun. And somewhere along the lines, they get a distress signal from the original ship that went out to do this. That
Icarus 1. They're flying on Icarus 2, the squeakquel.
And the first sort of ethical problem comes about when they get this distress signal from Icarus 1 that has gone missing for 7 years or so, and they have to decide whether to change course to go to this other ship
and take its payload.
Yeah, one of the ideas is that 2 bombs to save Earth is better than none.
Yeah.
But
you get an extra life, basically.
Yeah, it's a one-up. But they have to reroute, and that comes with complications. And yeah, that's sort of the big thing. And they suspend democracy in this instance, and they give the decision to one person to weigh the pros and cons of it, and he runs through it and makes the decision. Everyone, regardless of what anyone else wants, they're going to do what this one person decides. And I'll always remember that scene, because it's like them just talking about it's really uncinematic. But Danny Boyle films it in such a dynamic way that discussion scene is one of the most memorable parts in the first half of the movie or so.
Yeah.
We're not a democracy. We're a collection of astronauts and scientists. So we're going to make the most informed decision available to us.
Made by you by any chance?
Made by the person best qualified to understand the complexities of the payload delivery. Our physicist.
Besides that scene, I really like in the first part of this movie the scene where they all get called into the observation lounge to see Mercury moving in front of the sun. Was a really memorable scene for me. Because it shows it really captures the sort of awe of space, just seeing how small Mercury looks moving across the sun. And also because the music that they play. The music, I really liked the music in general from this movie. I think it was really well done. And just it's weird. There's a lot of major key, warm, tonal music going on. And it really kind of brings this sense of, it takes some of the scare away from the whole thing. It puts the focus more that these people are doing something noble.
Sure.
Rather than making you afraid, because there's a scene when they go on to the Icarus 1 and there's all these shots of these dark hallways and things that are barely, and it's
very haunted house.
Yeah, but they have this pretty like guitar music playing, and it just makes it seem like this is a place that humans lived rather than like, you know, Alien or something like that, which is, you know, supposed to be scary and tense.
Yeah. For some reason, when directors tackle science fiction, like especially like space exploration, that they, and even great directors do this, they sort of succumb to this. I mean, it's really a trope at this point where it's like you get to like the edge of the universe or something like that, and then there's something bullshit, you know, at the edge of the galaxy. In Contact, like the thing takes like the form of her father.
Right.
In Interstellar, it's like he goes back in time to like when he was like a kid at the bookshelf and stuff.
Right.
In Mission to Mars, there's some sort of like all benevolent being on Mars. It's like, isn't space travel cool enough? Like, do we really need to add in these sort of like superficial love is universal sort of things?
Yeah.
And that is one thing that I like about this, is with the exception of how it gets all Event Horizon at the end, really it maintains like it is a science fiction movie.
Yeah, there's no romantic relationships we have to worry about. There's not a lot of like humor, really, which is fine. Like,
I do like when it was Chris Evans and Murphy were fighting, and Rose Byrne like says into the microphone, she's like,
We have an excess of manliness breaking out in the comms center.
I don't know if I've mentioned this. Did I say this already? Like, I really love the cast. Like, unlike the casting director for Valerian, who should be fired, this casting director needs a promotion.
Okay.
Because I mean, I love Rose Byrne. I like Cillian Murphy a lot. I mean, Michelle Yeoh is in this.
Yeah.
She's great.
I'm definitely moving Rose Byrne up in like my esteem. I forgot she was in this, but she was really good in this.
Yeah.
And then I think about, you know,
and I didn't.
She turns around and does Spy
Yeah.
for Bridesmaids or something.
I didn't see her either. I saw a character.
Yeah.
And that's always a good sign, especially with like an actress that I love. You know? Like that can be hard sometimes.
So yeah, I'm pushing Rose Byrne up in my esteem.
She's moving up there. Good job, Rose.
What a stupid fucking retarded toast. You're delightful.
Good job on the casting director for this movie.
So on the topic of it being science fiction.
Yeah.
You know, when they're changing the shield, like the sun shields.
By the way, I really love the design on the ship too, just like
Yeah.
with a huge sun shield in front of them. Okay.
So they have a huge sun shield because without it, they would just burn up.
Vaporize.
Yeah, like any exposure to the sunlight without the shield would just burn them away.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a part where they're like changing the angle of the shields, and it starts creaking and moaning and things like that. And it's because like it's cooling off,
right?
And so like the metal is like expanding and contracting in different ways, and it's, you know, making this horrible sound. And I'm like, see, this is like when science is interesting enough by itself. Like, this is what we get.
Yeah.
Like, we get this, like, menacing sound, like, that's going through the whole ship, and it makes it sound like the ship's falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, you know, the person who engineered it is like, this is what happens. Like, this is what it's designed to do. Like, he's not scared, but it sounds scary.
Yeah. And I like the idea, I mean, this movie does this, where it sort of like makes the sun sort of like God, or like this it's like a symbol of God, or just like, I don't know, something bigger than us, I suppose.
Sure.
And then there's, you know, like, and the sun has always been like a symbol for religion too, and God and things like that. And so like they kind of play on that a little bit, and I think they could have just had it be, it's like the sun be the character of that symbol, rather than bring in, you know, Meltman at the end. And then it would have been great to have, you know, then show that we can overcome this fear that we have by putting the nuclear warhead in its southern coronal hole, whatever it was.
The sun's cornhole.
Everyone's laughing and riding and cornholing except Buster.
But, you know, then that means that, like, we've conquered that kind of with logic and everything else and da-da-da-da.
one of the things that makes sci-fi fun to watch, and I would extend this principle to horror movies too. I always feel like directors kind of let their hair down in a certain manner with science fiction or horror. It lets them do things that, you know, a period piece wouldn't let them do, you know. You know, you can play with lighting, you can play with imagery a little bit more, you know. And this, I was watching the colors, and, you know, at first I was like, oh man, are we going to get an overdose of orange here?
Yeah. Teal and blue, it is all over this movie.
It is all over this movie, but they do a good job of, like, different rooms have different colors. Like, the blue, obviously, in the coolant system area.
Right.
You got plenty of blue there, and then anytime the sun's around, you're getting orange and yellow.
Yeah.
But there's just, like, warning lights that make rooms red or green.
Right.
And it's, you know, one of those things, you know, he probably didn't get to do this in Train Spotting, you know?
Yeah.
He gets to play with light and color in different ways. And one of my favorite scenes in the movie is right as, like, things are starting to go awry, and a fire breaks out in the oxygen garden.
Yeah.
And Michelle Yeoh, like, runs down, and they do the logical thing. They release the oxygen in there, because otherwise it's going to be a slow burn until everything's destroyed.
Right.
So they just overdo it so that it burns out quickly.
Right.
And just when it all goes up in flames, it's like there's these glass walls, and Michelle is on the other side of it, and she had, you know, put her heart and soul into that oxygen garden.
Right.
So it all goes up in flames, and she's in that, like, glass corridor, like, crying.
Right.
And, like, that, it was.
But all around her, she's just surrounded by orange.
Yeah, and then, like, it goes up, and, like, you can just see her silhouette so clearly, and, like, she's literally in the middle of this fire, but, you know, not in danger per se, but
yeah.
it was just a great looking scene. Like, it really, Danny Boyle was really able to do something visually interesting in that moment.
Yeah. I liked what you said earlier about he tends to over direct sometimes, but then there's sometimes when he uses a sleight hand, it's really nice. Like, there's just, like, shots from outside when we see the ship, like the special effects of the outside of the ship don't draw attention to themselves. He really uses them well and for the story. It feels like the sense that, like, we're always moving towards the sun. I don't know. It's good because there's definitely movies, you know, with special effects of space, things flying, and all you can think about was, like, how long did they render this? You know,
sure.
So I didn't really get that impression watching that.
Did you get that impression while watching Valerian?
Maybe.
So we have, like, really a pretty visually interesting movie. Like, we have a lot of variety. Yeah. We have, you know, the inside, the outside. We have interesting moral dilemmas that crop up, dealing with, you know, there's democracy, there's utilitarian principles, there's, you know, chain of command, because at one point the person put in charge is really not qualified to be in charge.
Yeah, just because he's next in command.
Yeah, but he sort of immediately cracks under the pressure and does not know how to lead in any sort of way.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, he gives Murphy an order at one point, even though, like, that order is very selfish and self-serving.
Kappa, I order you to remove that suit. Get out of the suit!
And there's sort of this, like, do we just follow him because he's the captain? Or do we do what we know would be best?
Yeah.
And there's just those little tasty moral dilemmas, like, they make, you know, an otherwise static moment really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have the interesting stuff going on outside the ship, or, I mean, even inside the ship, but then when it just gets down to, like, two people talking, or, you know, two or three people talking, it creates a different type of tension.
Yeah, and especially when the stakes are so bleak. Like, it really draws a sharp contrast as to what is ethical and what isn't. You know, it's like, in the face of these circumstances where you're just like, your mission is to go blow up the sun and then blow up yourselves. It's like, what are your moral obligations in that environment?
The sun, I guess, you were saying earlier how the sun is like a symbol for something bigger than all of us, which makes a lot of sense because the whole movie, the sort of default is the mission is more important than anything.
Right.
Like, it's more important than any of us.
The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Yes.
Basically.
And then, it shows where the rubber hits the road in these utilitarian principles, Chris Evans, like, when he's trying to get the mainframe, I guess, back into the coolant, like, he has to dive into this, I don't even know what liquid it is, but it basically freezes you pretty quickly.
Yeah. He also, I noticed when they did the, like, shooting out of the airlock, he got frozen, like, part of his hand got frozen.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's, like, a symbolic thing there with him getting frozen all the time.
Yeah, because he dropped the wrench in the coolant early in the movie, and, like, his hand gets frozen.
I don't know, just something to think about. Go ahead.
The default is always that the mission is what's most important, and that people are willing to sacrifice at all costs. And that's the sort of stuff that makes character development interesting, is when you have these tough decisions. If you develop a character based on, like, what they want and, like, what's stopping them from getting it, like, this is, they want to complete their mission, and what's stopping them, like, that, it's simple screenwriting, but it really makes for sort of interesting moral dilemmas.
Yeah.
That they don't shy away from. It's not like they present a moral dilemma and then some action happens. Like, they lean into all of these moral dilemmas.
Which is what makes the stupid Meltman suck so much.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, oh, here's our bad guy. And it's, like, so clear that, like, now we have to fight against him.
I really feel that this is a 5-star movie until Meltman comes in, and it docks the movie a full star.
It just sucks.
For 7 years, I spoke with God. He told me to take us all to heaven.
I mean, not only does, like, that villain suck, but I feel like the movie gets sloppier once he shows up.
Yeah.
The movie doesn't look as good once that guy shows up.
I really hate the way he edits the whole part when they, like, all get on the payload and then, like, launch it off. Finally, that last, like, 10, 15 minutes where they're fighting with him and it looks terrible. And it's edited weird. It feels like he's like, oh, I hate this part. I need to, like, dress it up and as much as possible. But there's, like, gore that we haven't had before. Like, when the arm gets ripped off, it's like, where the fuck is this coming from? Yeah. This is out of nowhere.
Yeah, it looks bad. Like, it suddenly looks cheap and shoddy, and, like, they go... It just...
It's like an AirSats Chris Cunningham got pulled in to do it.
And the tone of the movie changed. While I was watching, I was like... It's as much of a shift in, like, the tone of the movie as in adaptation.
Yeah.
Like, at the end when it suddenly becomes this, like, action chase movie.
Yeah.
But unlike adaptation, it wasn't building up to this change.
It doesn't serve the story one bit.
I was just waiting for, like, Cillian Murphy to turn to, like, the camera and be, like, drop some shades and be like, it's daylight savings time. And, like, drop the missile and Kisses Hotter Than Hell comes on.
Oh, God.
That's what, like, the last 10-15 minutes feels like.
Sucks. It really does. And then, I actually really like the last, like, 2-3 minutes it's like a sentimental ending. Like, oh yeah, they actually complete it because it's like, he says...
So if you wake up one morning and it's a particularly beautiful day, you'll know we made it.
And it's in Sydney that's all snowed over, and then the sun gets brighter. And it's like, that's great.
Light at the end of the tunnel.
I'm
like,
totally
literally.
happy with that ending, but like, the 10-15 minutes up until that point are like, God, this is so bad.
Because in the movie's so well written that... I have no reason to think that they could have taken Meltman out and just put in something else.
To me, they could have gone the gravity route, and just, like, had the trials be fighting with the technical problems of being humans in space. You know, like, have those problems arise and then, like, deal with it that way. Like, have the enemy be just space in general. Yeah. You know? Like, that's very interesting to me.
I mean, Gravity is a good example of a science fiction movie where they just let the science aspect of it be the interesting part of the movie. And I don't know anyone who, like, walked away from Gravity thinking, like, you know, could have used some more love. If we could have had something in there that talked about the universal nature of love.
I wish she had, like, a fight scene out in, like, the spacesuit with a cosmonaut or something. That would have been great.
Yeah, just... Gravity's like 90 minutes, and you're holding your breath the whole time.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah. And that movie was, like, the first one that really got me thinking, like, man, space does not give a fuck about us, you know? And, like, the sun doesn't either. Like, we tend to think of the sun, on Earth, we tend to think of the sun as, like, this benevolent thing that keeps us warm and makes flowers grow and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, it is a giant ball of gas that could not give a fuck about us.
Right. If we were, like, 2-3 degrees closer or further from the sun, it would just be a barren wasteland on this planet.
So it's terrifying, really, to think about what the sun actually is. Whenever I see those, like, you know, infographics of, like, this is how big the Earth is compared to the sun, it's like, and our sun isn't even that big.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a medium-sized star.
Oh, it just, like, really illustrates how small we are. How tiny and how much the universe does not care.
Yeah. And the universe is pretty indifferent to what you and I do.
Yeah, and that seems like a much scarier enemy than, you know, religion or man.
I feel like they almost could have worked in, like, the space madness part had it been, you know, maybe an existing crew member. You know, because there was already hints of, like, the dude from the beginning that, like, ultimately sacrificed himself.
Right.
That he was sort of veering towards this. Like, he was sort of, like, really testing the limits of how much sun he could take.
Right.
Even if they introduced, like, that element of, like, say, sabotage or something from that guy.
Yeah.
It would have been more satisfying than what we had.
Yeah.
And
it's just so improbable.
And it's such a shame because the movie is so good.
It really is. Yeah. The first time I saw this, I remember feeling the exact same way. Being, like, really on board until that guy came in and then just sort of being like, wait, who is this guy? They don't introduce him very well either. No, so, like, it just feels like there's this zombie running around out of nowhere.
Yeah, like, you get the clips, like, they see, like, the security log or something from the Icarus One.
Yeah.
And then you hear that, like, based on, like, how many people are left on board, there's only so much oxygen left, and you get, oh my god, there's a fifth person.
Yeah.
It diminishes the film in a really unfortunate way. Danny Boyle sometimes makes some unfortunate decisions. He's so talented, but I feel like he's afraid that his audience will get bored. So then he just overdoes it. Like, when the pressure's on to, like, really sell a moment.
Yeah.
That he can't just, you know, rest confidently on what he's doing. He has to completely overdo it.
Mm-hmm. And in some cases it works. Like, I like Train Spotting.
Yeah.
And, like, that baby scene in that movie is over the top. And I think it's effective, though. Really effective in that movie.
Did you ever see Shallow Grave?
Mm-mm.
It was his first one.
Oh, okay.
With Ewan McGregor? You never saw it?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Does he get naked?
I don't think he does. It was...
We'll see if I get around to it.
But, I mean, you know, young Ewan McGregor was pre-Train Spotting.
Does he smile?
He does smile.
Okay, fine, I'll watch it.
Because he's a scoundrel.
He's such a rakish little man, isn't he?
It's good, though. And it's one of those movies that, even though, like, there's a couple scenes where, like, Danny Boyle is, like, completely over-directing, it's almost like he's over-directing to distract us from, like, the subtle foreshadowing that he's doing.
Oh, okay.
Because, like, by the time, like, the twist kicks in, I was like, oh, he made this totally obvious the whole time. I just wasn't looking at it.
Yeah. It's funny. He's a good director that just doesn't know sometimes when to rein it in.
Yeah,
it's a shame because this is a really good movie that just suffers from that one element.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, it's too bad. Yeah, it's a really enjoyable, really interesting visually and subject matter wise. It's ruined. So a thought occurred to me over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
With the exception of the GIMP scene in Pulp Fiction, why do you think Tarantino doesn't do sex scenes?
I guess I would assume he doesn't do sex scenes because they don't serve his stories, really.
I just feel that with his love for exploitation and grindhouse, that you'd have some like nudity in there someplace, or just some gratuitous sex. Because I mean, we definitely get gratuitous violence. Well, I mean, I don't want to say gratuitous. Gratuitous makes it sound like it's not necessary.
Stylized violence.
Yeah.
There's that scene where Robert De Niro and Bridget Fonda are fucking
right.
in Jackie Brown.
Yeah.
Want to fuck?
Yeah.
Okay, so there is one in there. Because he doesn't shy away from romance, necessarily. Like,
right.
There are definitely characters who are romantically interested in one another throughout his movies.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. That'd be a good question for him in a Q&A.
Yeah, just a thought.
Yeah, interesting. Well, speaking of sex scenes, I'd like to tell you about the movie I've chosen for next week.
Yes.
It has some of those in it.
Okay.
This movie popped in my head when we did Magic Mike, because it's a road trip movie, and it's sexy. And I wanted to throw one more in there since it's road trip season still, and it's getting to those hot, sticky, sweaty days of summer. And I think I want to watch Y Tu Mama Tambien.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a long time.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a long time either.
And I really like it. I remember really liking it. So,
I do like me some Gael Garcia Bernal.
Yeah, his premiere movie?
Oh, was it? Okay.
I think so. I haven't done any research yet, but Diego Luna, too.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen that one.
Yeah, we haven't done an Alfonso Cuarón movie yet.
That's
so.
true. Well, then I also have to take Harry Potter 3 off my list.
Sorry, I should have cleared that with you. So, anyway, yeah, I feel like we'll have lots to talk about with that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, great.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Plug our junk.
Plug our junk.
Follow us on Twitter at xratedmovies.
Send us an email, x.rated.movies@gmail.com.
You could like our Facebook page at RatedXMovies.
And also rate, review, subscribe in the iTunes store. We love hearing what you think about us and our voices and our opinions.
Yeah, all those things.
Mm-hmm.
We have a Patreon. If you want to send us to PodCon.
2017 here in Seattle, Washington. We need to pay for that Lyft ride.
I guess we'll see you next week.
Yeah, Y Tu Mama Tambien. Hot, sweaty summer times.
Let's get sexy.
That's it.
Bye.
Bye.